the session. A very good afternoon to all, respected my dear students. So, see, once the cyber security we compare with like information assurance, so we can come across various damages which are in the form of interruptions, so which are going to be destroyed, which are going to be steal, which are going to be duplicate, which are going to be unmanageable, unavailable services. We can name it as interruption, no? Then interception. Generally, if any sort of a team is a committee or a party which are going to be snoop, which are going to be steal, which are going to be duplicate the accessibility of the resources unnecessary without the knowledge of the employees, so without the knowledge of the organization, without the knowledge of entrepreneurship, without the knowledge of the communication paradigm or network, whatever you can call it, a interception. Similarly, which are going to be modified, alter most of the information available. You can say modification, unauthorized party modifying a level of the available resources. We can say modification. And similarly, which are going to be a part of the property, which are going to be part of the resources. So independently, acts like unauthorization, insertion, alteration, we can say fabrication. These are the damages ultimately which are going to be threat calls. You can say threat calls or threat information and intruder who are all going to be duplicate the whole set of organization types of a damage. Once we have the information flow look like this way, then you can go for what is ultimately going to be carry various levels of and the components and the idea which behind it threat. Generally, threat agents who are all their criminals, who are all their terrorists, who are all there without the knowledge of the information, supervise. Similarly, how they used to manage like a privacy secretions and how they used to manage a robustness of the flow of information secret groups and a state of information sponsorship and in which way the employees may not happy and unsatisfactory level unnecessary bringing which are going to be disturbed to the system, hackers, so you can say attackers, so intruders, so pressuring a group, so commercial groups. See what will happen if we are interested to go do our work other than that one additionally which are not a matter for the purpose, then you can call it as a threat agents who are all like a intermediator, who are all like act like a in between vendors and the organization, in between the contractors and the correct. Now this we can name it in a different manner. Main components who are all under like a threat agents in the sense mediator, and who are all acts like a team managers, who are all acts like a team group, and capability generally a set of instruction what we are using for managing various type of resources called a software in order to bring a complete picture about the utilization of the software, then the technological aspects. So see today what we are seeing, because in which we can stand and we can find out who is the right person, who is the authorized person, who is the authenticated person, you can find out because of that level of Irish management too, in which way the face recognition, in which way the character recognition, and similarly how the biometric flow. These are all various type of a technological aspect bring to manage unthreat well. Similarly, facilities. See, once you are using a compatible level of a software and the components which are going to be governed for the technological, then the facilities are more important. Education and training. Today, education system give a very clear picture about how the our level of the attitude, similarly how the culture level, correct? No, the many things. But training is once again which going to be experience part of the practical oriented methods, so books, so manuals. That means to say components we can categorically classify one among like a thread agent. So then the capabilities with the help of a software, so technological so aspects, so education in which way the system of education provide a positive impact. What sort of a negative remark which are going to be destroyable methods, so literature review, documentary. These are a part of capabilities. Inhibitors. Suppose they used to be see fear. Oh, something is goes wrong if myself is unnecessary involving. Something is goes to wrong if unnecessary which are going to be intact with the system. These are the fear of capture, fear of failure. Still, if something goes wrong, how I can make it correct, no? Available. How I can make it available throughout the complete resources usefulness, all the things which comes to a matter of fear of failure. Level of technical difficulties. See, today we need not worry a finger point at correct now how we can find out in our palm itself only any sort of technological aspect which related to a bring a complete a God internet flow, a level of technological difficulty which one to another in which way the hardware and the software available which are going to be resolved. Cost of participation, that means to say you have to be go with like a minimization of cost and maximization of the profit. Any sort of a technological aspect which are going to be bring, then cost of participation is very. You have to think always a minimum cost and maximization of the profit. We can call it as optimization. The cost of optimization is sensitive to public perception. See, which are all more sensitive, which are all more sensible, which are all going to be asked in a smooth manner effect to the body of a public and with the knowledge of overall in and around. A law enforcement activity, you can say what are all the legal procedures which are there once you go with an intact, once you go with an insecure, once you go with a steal information, you have to see probably you might become a FIR, fact information report, correct? No, fact finding information report. Those are all according to the normal procedures. We can find out in which way the person accused, correct? No, these are law enforcement activities, target vulnerabilities, and who are all the team we can see. If you are finding, just I will give a simple example in which way the drug options which are coming from the media, correct? No, they are identified. Who are all the circle, who are all the persons involved, who are all the group, who are the team, correct? No, this is going to be target because these are like a entertainment, not for the life of which are going to be living complete. But same as it is in the case of networking usage or in the case of like in which way the service from the various resources. So and this is a part threat inhibitor target vulnerability. Similarly, target profile. How this company, how this vendor, how this company which are going to be survey long back. These three milestone you have to see that one how it's going to be build a very effective or efficient performance factors also the matter which comes to a threat in the public perception that is very see I'm myself a person who is working then automatically image is there in the public correct no that will intact oh okay no problem you can proceed he is a person so and so will help you correct no that automatically that is a gauge is going to be the image of that is called a public perception peer perception. See, we are working here in a team and overall with the contact, overall with my colleague, overall my student, overall my friends of a research scholar, overall friends of like you people, correct? No, that perception is very, very important. Similarly, amplifiers, threat amplifiers, we have to be feed such a way that in which way we have to be pressurized from one to another, how we can degrade if something goes wrong, fail, access to information, you have to give a complete authentication, authorization to write, read, and execute, access to information. And we have what is the level of the write permission, what is the level of execution permission, whatever the level of access information, all it comes to be amplified. Some stages of various company. Changing eye technology. Suppose this particular technology is not in a position to find the vulnerability, not in a position to have any sort of a damage which occurs to be identified. Correct? Now, today you see we are unable to find if something goes wrong. Correct? No, bomb blasting or something goes threatening go, how the robbery which are going to be happen. Correct? Even though we have all sort of a protection force of a human being, but how we are viewing a dog. Correct? No, a dog is basically one level of a technological which sense in which way the info, that is a changing high technological aspects. Deskilling through scripting, we can find out in which way the existing level of the software packages is thoroughly fit for analyzing a disk skills and education levels. What is the type of education having to promote and enhance a knowledge of skill-based environment in order to find out threat calls, threat events, threat levels of the information interfacing. Law enforcement, same as it is in which way threat enabler, correct? No, here also there should be a documentary, there should be a policy matter, you have to go step by step, correct? No, that's why only once they collect all the information, I'll give an example in which way the court, Supreme Court, High Court, which are going to be handled. They collect the information, if any sort of the verdict which are going to be finalized, they collect all sort of a witness info. Those are called a law enforcement activity. Target vulnerability, similarly, target profile, public perception, a catalyst. See events which are going to be happen, how which are going to be make an analysis, and you can make use such a way that what sort of an event which are going to be closely matter, a technology changes, so personal circumstances in which way the surroundings so happening, the changes which are going to be happen one to another, correct? No, threat catalyst. Similarly, agent motivator. Generally, see how best way, even though you are always take a complete direction, complete uh, involvement to the software and any hardware. But until unless without the motivation, the agent, correct? No, we are unable to identify a fact information flow, especially politicians, political entry, correct? Now you say they used to give a call such a, oh, this is my, he done a wonderful work, because in which way happen to be for him, it's a good, but against to the society. We can find out a threat agent motivator, secular. You might be come across various type of an organizations, correct? No, association, which are automatically just say pressurized, personal gain, because automatically impact how is going to be impact, how is going to be effect, the personification, religion. Today what you are seeing, correct? No, generalize most of the aspect which are coming in, correct? No, today what we observe various other the design is various issues which related to both different type of a community aspects. Power terrorism, generally, if the border level of in which way the country of our people, they're struggling day in day out to manage our survival, correct? No, but even though we can find out, identify what level of a threat calls, similarly what level of a damaging factors, what level of intruder, what level of a steal of a flow, correct? Now, even though they come with like a close, but we can identify, they are ready to just consider for any sort of changes in their life for the benefit of their own country. Correct? Terrorism, curiosity, correct? No, these are main components of a threat which consists of like a threat agents, capabilities and inhibitors, then amplifier, how we can just further strengthen that one in a group or a technological, or how we can one to another, and what sort of a accessibility information you have to full freedom, flexibility you have to give it to them, and in which we can organize various type of an event. We can call it as catalyst. Similarly, the threat agent motivators, especially a political association, a groupism, team of a member who are all highly religion, and how which are going to be personal gain, and the power and the terrorism. These are the fact finding related components of complete complete threat events. And threat agents, once again, we can go with the classification based on, we can get from the natural, we can get from the catastrophic, get from the organization. Natural, we can identify like a fire. Today, observe in which way the changes which are with a pressure of water, pressure of air, pressure of in which way the happening one to another, correct? No? Fire may at any moment, we can't say, because a complete earth holding the strength what we are going to be give, correct? No? You will walk and talk and run, whatever it may be. But how, what is the strength of that one in which with the layer approaches of the earth, correct? No? Any moment, the chances of fire which are going to be happen, correct? No? Especially for it. You can observe, especially in the overseas country, how they are finding lots of, correct? No? Happening. Floods. Today, you see that one, the existing now, correct? No? Happening. We can't predict at any moment in which way the changes of catastrophic events happening and damaging all resources because of natural calamities. Power failure, correct? Now you are doing a servicing in which way it are going to be happen for the society. Positive level we think and doing, but if any chances BESCOM and the BESCOM in which way the power supply, national thermal power, whatever power failure happen, then this is going to ultimately complete effect to the whole system of an organization. Earthquakes, correct? No, even though so intelligent agent, so intelligent level of an organization working day in day out in Japan, correct? You can find out they are not worrying about it. Even though any changes are going to be happen and effective from the nature like earthquake, they are in a position to justify. They would like to be survived because of the in which way the managing a resources day and out. Even though what we feel ourselves and the flow like a his mind is a permanent, but never thought like a permanent. Whatever ourselves going to be create, imaginable, unimaginable miracle, those are going to be permanent like that. Unintentional, because I told you very clearly, most of the organization very good level of the positive aspects on for with and against also. Now you can classify those are like insider and we can get through the outsider who are all linked together, who are all working in the organization, who are working in the entrepreneur. They should have a link to the outsider, those who are going to be damage whole organization, primarily non-hostiles. They are nowhere related. They used to give ask myself, correct? No, even though you can identify in which way they happen to be, their intention is different, not for the purpose betterment of the society. Intentional, insider here also, or you can say very curiously, correct? No, some of them they making an experimental. You can say overall comes. Examples of the intentional overall there, you can say insider and the outsider, and other than hostiles or you can say non-hostile very curiously, and like overseas agents, so companies overall, similarly terrorists, so organized crimes, hackers who crackers in which way they different from one to another because more flexibility, more freedom, correct, automatic insiders who and the political who are all descendants, so vendors, so suppliers, so all who comes under the spec of this one. And some of the important top 10 database threats which are available. If you say generally, top 10 database security threats which are identifying, you can go with one by one. You can use a website, scroll www.threatcall.asl.com. You can find out various levels of a standard documentary which are going to be managed for interruption, interception, similarly modification, all the things which come. One is excessive privilege abuse. Generally, the database access privilege, which based on in which way the agreement made by the exceeding, in which way the function which are going to be take place, university administrator and those who are able to, in which way the contact information take advantages of updating privilege, change of grace. Correct now. See what will happen in order to manage the level of good privilege to a group of students. Overall, there the administrator requires to be able to change a student contact information which are advantage, correct, excessive database update privilege and automatically which are going to be change the grid. A legitimate privilege abuse. Abuse and privilege a purpose of unauthorized and which provide a most of the trends overall the recording with the correct monetary benefit with the financial. Similarly, prevail of elevation. Take some sort of standard meritorious databases platform which ultimately click for the vulnerability and provide some sort of administrator correct method vulnerabilities and some of the stored procedures there prevail elevation, especially built-in functions are there, implementation of set of rules or protocols are there, even we can make use some sort of standard level of SQL statements also. And the platform vulnerability databases and especially today what we are using like Microsoft Bill Gates, Windows 2000 do in a single user mode. And similarly, if you think about like Unix, additional services install database and also provide authorized, unauthorized accessibility, data corruption, so DOS, denial of services, so DDoS, so distributed denial of services. So these are a part of various type of threats of top 10 databases. And another one is SQL injection, structured query language injection. And overall, they typically insert, we can say inject, in which way the statement which are going to be vulnerable through the SQL standard. With the help of overall, the attackers automatically gain unrestricted flow of an access throughout the database. You can say SQL injection also part of one. Weak audit trial. A database automatically represents a policy matter and which are going to be very seriously damage the whole organization. Take into consideration with the risk and like regulatory risk, deterrence, detection and the recovery aspects which comes under one of the important of a database threat we can call a weak audit trail. DOS, access to the complete network communication application intended users, that is also one sort of a database. Similarly, database communication protocol vulnerabilities. A set of databases vulnerability protocols available which automatically fix especially a group level Oracle, Sybase, Informix. Similarly, Focus. Some of the standard databases communication protocol ultimately which are going to be vulnerable. Weak authentication. We assume such a way that identity of the legitimate database users purposefully stealing, duplicating the flow of otherwise which obtaining in login credentials. There itself only they can easily track, trace, a log table, entertainment, all the flow. Then finally, the unnecessary, they are going to be steal the flow of the information with the help of authentication. We can call it as weak authentication. That's why once you're making a password, you can say one is medium, similarly less strong, more strong. You can use the combination. If you are following certain rules and regulation, normal procedure of how we can go for creating a password, then you can come to know how you can set up a good authentication, better authentication, which are going to be very smart compared to the insecure flow of data. And backup data exposure. See what will happen if you are making use of media for like a magnetic tape or jukebox or CDs, whatever it completely unprotected from attack. You might be knowing read notch, write notch, how you can usually protect. Correct. Once you are physically make a manual entry and manual operation, which are not going to be do any sort of an operation. As a result, several high profile, especially security breaches involved in order to manage, like especially backup tapes. See, you have to give at what time this recovery and the restore started, at what time going to be wind up, how we can make use. These are all the different type of standard top 10 database threats are available. One among excessive privilege abuse, legitimate privilege abuse, privilege elevation, database platform vulnerability status, structured query language injection, weak audit trailing, denial of services, distributed denial of services, database communication protocol vulnerability, weak authentication, finally, and backup level of process. And similarly, we can find out some of the top 10 web threads which are available. I can go through the link what I giving here, Biggaroo and distributed denial of services attacks. Especially, we can make overall the high profile level of the vulnerabilities, high profile level of the attackers, high profile level of the crackers, old browsers, vulnerable plugins. That means it's a old browser correct the compatibility through that one, because whatever it may be flow of the surfing information available, but internally they can easily manage with a log table. You can say how the when they logged in, when they logged out to, what sort of a task executed, everything they can usually come across. Browser vulnerability and more frequently the browser plugins especially. You might be come across if you are using like a Netscape Navigator or Netscape Communicator or Internet Explorer or whatnot you are going to be used, no? Then how the changes which are especially the applicable ODBC, correct? No, Open Database Connectivity, JDBC, Java based, whatever it may be, you might become across how the link which are going to be established. Oracle, Java, Adobe Flash, and Reader. These are some of the plugins and the old browser. Good sites hosting bad content. See what will happen. The website looks somewhat very beautiful and attractive, but the contents flow which are available, we can say especially attacking attackers infected legitimate financial and technical aspects of the industry, and in which way which are going to be interconnected, and especially some of the standard institution university and overseas also we can identify good site hosting bad content commonly accessed by intended victims. They can come to know what level of the programming, what level of the interfacing, what level of a script programming executing, in which way the CGA can easily, CGA in the sense common gateway interface through the CGA. Even though you have a gateway, you don't have a proper filter, we don't have a proper firewall, then legitimately they can easily steal the flow. Mobile application apps today and the unsecured. See, we are very happy to just focus most of the apps available for our cellular, correct? No? For our financial transaction you take day to day. While walking also you can just find out our correct, no? Is it what is the BP rate to sugar level, what level of a percentage of weight, correct? No, these are all the things we can just some of the standard correct? No, how we can natural calamities which are going to predict to analysis, correct? No, because in which way the applets, especially apps, mobile apps which are available today, bring our own device movement has to be let us origin consumer own device inside a corporate. Correct? No? That means to say we can easily manage with for our living with a personification, no? Social aspects of societal. That's all. Failing to clean up bad input. See today, what we mentioned like one of the standard database like SQL injection and TopSpot, the open web application security projects, what we observe, and that is also one of the bad input criteria. Hazards of digital certificate, a series of hacker especially are, and creating a valid certificates authorization and with the help of a standard tools, especially SSL. SSL is nothing but secure socket layer. Today, see what will happen if you get into the Amazon, get into the Google, get into the Flipkart, get into the Snapdeal. See what we observed beginning with the help of a protocol HTTP. See one the security which are going to be focused, the damaging ultimately which are going to be controlled by SSL certificate. We can say secure socket layer. If you the concept of a secure socket layer always endorsed with HTTPS. Keep in mind HTTP for browsing or searching flow. But in order to manage a privacy, in order to manage intact, correct? No, then we can find out SSL in the form of HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. SC stands for, we can say SSL. Similarly, the cross-site scripting problem. See, any attacker going after a banking site with a cross-site scripting vulnerability would run a script for a login bug. See what will happen. How they can come to know, correct? No, they used to take our cell number, they used to take our contact details, then they will wherever the entry. If you make an entry, then you can find out wherever it may be, may communicate it with a bank, wherever it may be, just make a transaction. All data basis interaction, log information, which are going to be displayed in front of them. Then that is going to be the plus point for them. And overall act like cross-site scripting problem. That means to say, with the help of scripting, JavaScript you take, PHP standards you can take, HTML, dynamic level of a programming script, with the help, they can easily identify the personification profile and they can easily insecure a complete data. Similarly, today the insecure Internet of Things, sensor info, we can make use of sensor devices, routers, and printers, so video conference systems, so door locks and the other devices are now network via internet protocol. See what will happen? We surprise, there is no gatekeeper, there is no watchman. Once you entering a Deepa Comfort, once you entering like a Oberoi Hotel, wherever it may, we can find out how the glasses which are, there should be a contact of secure level of IoT, Internet of Things. It's a technological aspect once again, provide enhancing knowledge, correct? Embedded web service servers. In many cases, correct? Even though you are working of the purpose with our own intact or contact with the some particular, but we can get an advertisement in between how they are going to be give certain set of accessing stealing flow through our link. The software and various type of devices in an older version. Today, what we are using like HTML and the compatibility, which are always borrowing, correct? The HTML programming from the similarly WML, what we are observing flow of and wireless markup language, open source library that is very much more difficulty. See, available information with a wire, without wire, similarly wireless, other than better like IoT also insecure. Today what we are using, getting in the front door. See, we have an automated web or scrap, correct? Now we can find out, especially like you can use a spammer with the help of a spam, with the help of a tracer, how these which are going to be attacked. Web pages information that can give a competitiveness of a better intelligence on our own regular activities, business levels of process. And finally, you can find a new technology, same problems. The technology keep on upgrading, but the problem what we are facing, correct, no same. The people click links all day long. People are very pretty trying to think that clicking a link and see, obviously, today we expose her from the various type of a communicator, Internet Explorer, and Mosaic, whatever tool. The changes were happened. Today we can go with like a Edge, we can go make use some standard like a Chrome, which are ultimately what is the idea? Idea of that one is you are can able to see the flow, but problems are still there. We don't have a good setup of an authentication, good set of firewall, good set of gateway setting configuration. These are a standard top 10 web threads are available today. You can just latest also you can find out. Uh, Similarly, the majority of threads are IS. Majority threads of the IS, you can just point out intrusion or hacking, gaining access to a computer system without the knowledge of its owner. Intrusion, like you can say, poor implementation of shopping carts. See, we can easily find out today like Pantaloon, FBB. Once you are entering, correct? No, Titan, no, Photoshop, many shopping carts which are overall using the online apps, hidden fields in the HTML forums. We feel to be very happy. We are going to be see only the information which are relevant in a highlight fashion, but some of the information in an hiddenable manner, which ultimately going to be carry the authentication, which are going to be steal the flow of an information. Client side validation scripts. See, we are an HTML programming, we have a DHTML programming, we have an XML programming, we have a PHP programming, whatever it is. We can understand in which way once you are interfacing to the server, but ultimately the validation of the script, you can say data validation verification. Similarly, direct structured query language attack, session hijacking, correct? Even though you are through that one, you are working on that one for sending a exchange flow frame by frame, but necessarily which are going to be attacked. Yes, we can say hijacking, buffer overflow forums, port scan. That means to say, suppose you are using for 80 port for the HTTP, and they used to be manage, manipulate, then duplicate that corresponding 84 for some other application. We are not in. That's why 404, even though we are not in a position to make use display the flow of an information with the help of like 80 port of a hypertext transfer protocol and the port scanner, you can see that one. Most of the standard level, if you would like to be a part of the practical knowledge, then you can go like a buffer overflow forum. So port scanner, similar direct SQL attack, some of the standard open source tools are available. You can study thoroughly, practically understand. Then viruses and worms, program that make a computer system not to work properly. Ultimately, which are like a program, which are going to be do a literal level to understand a normal user in any manner, not going to be attacked, but which are going to be damaged and steal virus, tunneling virus, virus dropper, so cavity virus. So we can make with respect to the in which way the behavior, in which way the features of the program. Both viruses and the worms you can classify based on the level of how which are going to be perform their functionality. Polymorphic in the sense many level of a task which are poly means many. Teeth virus, so tunneling virus, so virus dropper, so cavity virus. So we can say with independent to one another have their own activities and the functionality and the behavioral of virus as well as the worms. Trojan, this is a very one important uh, virus, insecure one, going to be. These programs are having two components. One runs on a server, and another runs on. It's a client-server approach model. If you have a two-tier model, three-tier model approaches, which will be make use at total level of them. Especially the client acts like a user, the browser where exactly a browser is available with the help of a standard level of a script programming, and in order to enhance like a database server, web server, the client. These are the client server architecture model which will make use of stealing the flow. Data integrity attack, steal private information on the target to store keystrokes and make it viable for hacker. What will happen? There should be some sort of a script which are apps available. Ultimately, whatever our interaction contact then automatically store on the that particular file. Then hackers they come to know what are on the level of historical flow and which way the regular activity tasks which perform, everything which are going to be stored. Then later they make use in which way will links to the external contact. Sending provide local as a eminent attachment. That means to say, even though the public and the private level various activities with the help of email attachment. See what will happen most of the time, even though while attaching, we are not observed it's a binary file or like it's a binary file or like a ASCII file, but we can find out the some sort of a Trojan level of a virus. Spoofing, fooling, fooling other computer users think that the source of their information is coming from a legitimate user, especially if you have a class of IP like lies between 0 to 127, 128 to 191, 192 to 223. Whatever the class, we just make an arrangement, the transaction and the regular activity going through IP spoofing, Internet Protocol spoofing. They can use it temporarily, not permanently. In order to steal, in order to duplicate, in order to alter, they can use IP spoofing. This is one of the standard spoofing through IP, similar DNS spoofing. Any sort of an internet server, email server, chat server, mail server, what you take, all which are through the DNS, domain name system, domain name services. Here also chances of spoofing. Similarly, address resolution protocol. We have come across address resolution protocol. We are using a machine, then ultimately once reach to the other end of a target like a www Amazon and the www yahoo.com, how the address resolution is going to be take place from the hardcore system to the logical level of an address. You can say Ethernet address as well as a logical address of the what we are using like 192.168.3.200.300 with the help of standard ARP spoofing. Snipping used by hackers for scanning login IDs and password over the wires. See, we have overall the user they logged in, what type of a task they are executing, how the performance factors are dependable, everything which are through a TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. We can make use the standard tool, TCP dump, TCP walk, TCP trace, a snipper especially, snipper spoofing, and Trojaners, and I can just say port scan. Some of the standard open source software tools are available in order to understand how the cryptographic aspect, how the security. Suppose we are sending, myself is talking, is it which are going to be anybody in between, correct? No, threaten level, similarly, any sort of a damaging option, any sort of a failure, correct? No, we can see at what time this corresponding flow of an information idle at particular location, we can easily trace out. DOS, once again, the denial of service. The main aim of the attack is bring to the target network and make it to any of services. Let's see what will happen. Myself is like a common user. No? In order to access, in order to go for get the flow of an information from the server, then ultimately it's going to be blocked. Ultimately it's going to be trace out and it will give only the limited period for accessibility. We can say denial of service until we mention no, very clearly like user is not available, user is not providing a correct flow of an information within the time period. We can say how we can go for reinitiating. Here also denial of services, especially those who are legitimate user to avoid attack, to avoid any sort of intrusion. People do not need to be an expert. Keep in mind, not necessary at all a professional, not necessary at all a expertise, not necessary at all being a teacher, but with the purpose of intrusion, with the purpose of stealing information, a little bit always going to be damaged. They can do this attack with simple ping command. Keep in mind, I told you, ping is an ultimate level of providing extensive knowledge for attacking, but you have to be very careful. Ping from a local machine to the remote, ping, then www.yahoo.com, ping, www.amazon.com. See, if you are using the permittivity is there to us or not, and you can find out from DOS easily. You can call it a denial of services. See what I given a very clear picture about today class, like components of a thread, so and how the damage which are going to be take place, interruption or interception or modification or fabrication. Or similarly, components of a threads which are going to be indeed and ultimately have their own level of amplifiers, so agents, so similarly catalysts. So similarly, how we can find out the classes of threats from the natural calamities. So intentionally, uni-intentionally, can go with classification. Some of the standard databases threats can find one to another what is meant by the level of legitimate, level of privilege, level of SQL statement which are going to be, and similarly denial of services, all which similarly some of the big web sites which are all give a clear information about what are. Then you can see the major security threats which are available today for especially for information system. You can just go with that. Then what is meant by vulnerability? We can make a physical vulnerability. We can see that when natural vulnerability and with the specification of hardware and the software and in which way which are going to be interface media, emanation of vulnerability and the communication and especially manpower vulnerability. See what it means to say is some weakness of a system that could allow security to be allowed. Correct? No? See, there should be some lacunae, drawbacks of that particular system automatically carries the steal of the flow of a data, steal of the flow of an exchange from the system of information. We can classify one way is like a due to the physical structure, due to the natural, due to the various standard level of hardware regularly. Similarly, a compatible level of execution and provide a knowledge-based environment with a set of instruction. Media vulnerability, stolen, damaged, disk tapes, correct? Will tell. See, I have done, even though today, if you go with like that, we can't expect because that record is through that one only. Today, like a 26th November, in which you are communication, expect to be. If I am loading correctly, immediately you can get. We can't say nothing was nobody. I have uploaded, but you are not seeing that one. You can go through that one. Ultimately, it will give a very clear picture about why I am telling all those things in the same. Suppose any user not in a position to accept their done mistakes, done their malfunction, the media play a very standard level of a key role and responsibility. It can make use and identify the level of vulnerabilities. And similarly, due to radiation, chances are which are not in a position to, with the help of technological aspects like a gamma ray, radio microwave signal. So, you can with the help of in which way the RFID, radio frequency identifier, similarly the radiation ultimately which enhance the vulnerability. Communication vulnerability. So you say that when I requested most of you say without giving a proper time, but anyway I need not to be blamed, correct? No? The corresponding information after completion then I can easily upload. Human vulnerability. One to another in which way they understand may a better usage of the services of the system. How this particular vulnerabilities which are going to be manifest. You can say different classes of the vulnerability and which gives various levels of the issues. One among external misuse, visual spying, misrepresentation, physical level of damaging options. These are all the external misuse. Similarly, hardware misuse, logical level, eavesdropping, interference, physical attack, similarly physical removal. These are all the other because you are using a system of a component how which are going to be vulnerable manifest. Masquerading, this is very important of the vulnerable one. Impersonation, piggybacking attack, spoofing correct might be come across. If any chances of attack which are not in a position to understandable with a defined like a proactive active, then piggyback attack is one of the special attack which comes under the class proactive. Spoofing attack will come to the once we explaining various type of attacks and we can understand. But under masquerading, we can find out a different type of attacks which are going to be steal the flow of an information. First program, similarly, Trojan horse, logic bombs, malevolent worms, virus attack. These are the first program. Similarly, bypasses, trapdoor attacks, so authorization attacks, so example, in which we can crack a password, which are going to be useful for our services. Active misuse, we can say basic active attack, which are incremental attack, denial of a services of attack, a passive misuse of an attack, how we can find out one to another flow of an information together interference. We can find out one way and the other way how best way flow of the information to be attackable and available to us, uh, how we can get through and passive misuse, active misuse, bypasses, test program, masquerading, external misuse, hardware misuse, all which are various manifestation of different vulnerable techniques. Similarly, some of the expressive and the petty example, you can say examples of information security vulnerability. You can go through the website, you can find out information security vulnerability, how which are weaken and exposed to the organization in a risky way. Together with, we can find out what are the employer involving, providing a justification, social interaction, no, customer interaction, no, discussing work in public locations, so taking data out of the office paper, so various we can say correct no remove some of the various levels of option with intact and how which are going to be available to one another through the employees various other ways opening spam files, so connecting personal device to the company network, writing down the password on sensitive data, losing security such as id card, so lack of information security options. So these are a two level of information available, how we can find out with the help of through former employees, the employees who are all available already, we can say who are yet to be after retirement, how the negative aspects of the stealing of an information with their competitors. So, and retaining company data and in which way the discussion which are going to be company matter through the hardware, through the technology, especially today, social networking, file sharing, or rapid technological changes, so legacy of the system, so which provide an extensive storing data on the mobile device such as mobile phones, so internet browsers, so all which are part and parcel of the working schedule. And similarly, you can find out important example like a through software, so through network, through IT management too, and overall the vendors, overall the suppliers, overall the partner for establishing, you can easily systematically they can steal the flow of that one data of the organization, data of the entrepreneurship. Similarly, once we come across the importance of there is vulnerabilities, types, concepts which are there, next class tomorrow, I would like to discuss about what is meant by risk, what are the risk management design aspects, which complete the first unit of all contents. How, if you have any sort of a query, to conclude, we discussed thoroughly what are all the damages strategies, and different type of a threats components, so the agents of the threats, so what are all the databases available, what are the top level of the World Wide Web threats information we can gain. Similarly, how we can find the documentary evidence related to the vulnerability of the information and the threat also, and what is mean by vulnerability and different classification of the vulnerability, how we can just go through. Okay, these are the things, and tomorrow class will discuss about risk and the risk management at exactly 11:30. I hope you understand most of the information today. Tomorrow we'll get back to you. Any type of queries, Mr. Habib, Mr. Parikshit, and Mr. who are all available online. Any queries?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll meet tomorrow at exactly
Thank you, sir.
11:30. We'll go for the risk and the risk management. That is going to be the last content. Then finally we'll go one of the other. We'll see what are all the questions required for your examination point of view. Thank you. Take care of yourself. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. I stop.